The Getting the Deal Done podcast. I'm John Martinka. For those of you watching this, not just listening, I wish the weather here in Kirkland, where I look out the window, was at least as close to being as nice as the picture behind me, which is the Caribbean from the island country of Antigua. But let's move on to something really important to business buyers and sellers. And it's about the sellers and it's about legacy. And two things spurred the idea for this podcast. One is the Seattle Times recently, June 26th, front page headline: Bartell workers remember the golden era as court considers Rite Aid bankruptcy. I have behind me and on my other screen, I have another headline from Fortune magazine: A crisis is hitting your local drugstore. Why the slow demise of a 130-year-old family-owned pharmacy spells disaster for customers. You can't make this stuff up. This stuff happens, and it happens to large businesses, it happens to small businesses. Bartell's is a great example, an institution in Seattle. We have a neighbor who goes 5 or 6 not easy miles to get to a Bartell's, passing probably 10, but at least 5 other pharmacies within a mile or two. Uh, he liked the personal touch. It just had a culture. Uh, Personal touch meaning if you asked where something was, they would walk you to it to show you rather than saying, it's on the bottom left on aisle 7, way on the end. Uh, the industry got squeezed though. And so for this company that started in 1890 and had 68 stores and multi-generations, uh, Walgreens, CVS, Safeway, Kroger, Rite Aid, et cetera, got them in a little bit of trouble. One would think because the experts said it didn't appear they were healthy when they sold all of that for $95 million. Don't know, but that's what the experts said. But how do you think the family feels 3 or 4 years later when a third of their stores have been closed? They can't be happy, can they? So it is so important for a buyer and to continue the company. And I work in the lower middle market. Jessica and I are working in those size companies where often it is the baby. Uh, and they want to sell to someone who will take care of their people. I've had many, many business owners say, I will only sell to someone who will take care of my people, my employees. Uh, One business owner that I recently had a meeting and conversation with uh, told me about a competitor of his. A few years ago, the competitor sold to a large organization, and he said, the next thing you know, they're not there. Their people don't have jobs. He says, I won't sell to anybody like that. What about customers? Had a client a long time ago, and we were going through a list of companies that would make a good candidate to buy her business. And I remember in one of them, and she said, I won't sell to that competitor and have them taking care of my customers. Uh, you want to complicate it further? Have your kids in the business, especially if they're so spoiled and they're overpaid, they're underworked, they think they're entitled. The opposite, and I'm not saying a lot of owners do this, by the way, but the opposite was Dick and Kathy. They brought in their son, had him start as an entry-level salesperson, worked his way up. He was their top salesperson. He became the sales manager. Eventually, they groomed him to be president. He took over as president while dad was the CEO and mom was the CFO. And eventually, they sold to him, and the business just thrived and grew. So we know it's about the money. And we also know that it's the right buyer and the right fit because I have seen a lot of deals where the highest bidder didn't get the company, didn't get the deal because there just wasn't the relationship. There wasn't the feeling of the culture staying the same and all of that, the intangibles. Uh, so business sellers, you know what I'm talking about. Business buyers, you got to make the seller feel you'll take good care of their company which often is their baby. So thank you so much for listening. This is John Martinka, the Getting the Deal Done podcast on legacy.